Well, good morning and welcome back to another episode of The Ultra. Today, we're going to be in Joshua chapter 11 through 15, and I want to talk about something that's maybe will hit a little bit different today, and that is a midlife crisis. In a recent study, it was showed that most people experience a midlife crisis before the age of 45. In fact, 25% of people experience something called a quarter life crisis by the age of 25. They ask themselves, I'm getting old, what do I do? And I think the response to that has been, I'm going to buy a Corvette. I'm going to get tickets to the Dodgers game. I'm going to buy a bigger house or marry somebody that's super young, and that's going to make me feel younger. And we see kind of the same thing in chapter 13, not necessarily in the I'm going to marry somebody younger and buy a Corvette side of it, but we see Joshua, and it says that Joshua was an old man, but the Lord said to him, you're growing really old, and there's much land that remains to be conquered. And so maybe you're a little bit older and you look back at your life and say, there's so much left to be done. I'm running out of time, but there's so much left I wanted to do. And I had my bucket list and I didn't get it done. There's so much, maybe even when we think about land to be conquered, there's so many things for the kingdom that I didn't get to do. I wanted to go on this mission trip or that mission trip. And that's a practical thing I think that everybody has to learn to wrestle with. Most people wrestle with that at some age in their life as I'm getting older and I'm getting more years behind me than I have in front of me. So what do I do? Alexander the Great had the same thing happen, and he conquered all the land by the age of 35. 32, he actually was going to go on and become a manic depressive and struggle with what's the meaning of life, and he started drinking more and more and more and going to more and more parties and having more and more parties at his house, and eventually he just became so depressed that he died. And they don't know if it was an illness that he died from, like a mental illness that he died from, or an infection or what it was, but it was this growing sense of he just could find less and less meaning in life, and he had conquered all the lands. So it's not necessarily that I'm 70 years old and I still have all this stuff I want to do. That definitely is a side of it, but it's not the only side of it. I think it's also, I'm 70 years old, I've done all this stuff, and I haven't found meaning in it. So either way, the Lord gives a super good response on how do you handle that, what do you do from there. And for Joshua, he was told, I want you to invest in the younger generation. I want you to I want you to prepare mentor. I want you to be a mentor to somebody else. I want you to have somebody that you're pouring into, whether that's a person. For Joshua, it was obviously a nation, a leadership group. And maybe for you, it's an elder board, and you just want to invest in them and give them your knowledge because you know that there's so much more land to conquer. Maybe you want to invest in one person individually, a disciple, or that you want to make. Maybe it's a young person. Maybe it's somebody that's 10 years younger or 30 years younger. I don't know. But we do have things like that in the church. We have a mentorship group that we're trying to do that we started about a year ago that we've been trying to get people plugged into. So if you want to sign up for that, obviously come and see me and I'll get you plugged into one of the young kids. We started small groups where we have people leading small groups of people about their same ages, but you need to get involved in that, and you can create a community and invest and pour into other people. I think the important thing that we see in Joshua 13, the question that at least came into my mind is, as I'm getting older and as you're getting older watching this, and as we're all kind of transitioning, we're not getting any younger, how are we investing in a younger generation? How do we invest in a younger generation, teaching them about the Lord so that when they are older, they will not depart from it? That's the cure that God gives to Joshua. So I want to maybe ask you, watching this today, who is it that you can invest in? Who is it that you can invest in? My God shot for today is that God is always concerned about the next generation, that we can be a generation that make God's name known among the nations, and then He wants us to turn around to the next generation, the younger generation, and pour into them. So how are you pouring into that? Are you doing that by allowing them to worship? Are you doing that by making a way for them when they may not see no way? Are you doing that by giving? Are you doing that by praying for them? And ultimately, I think the question today, are you mentoring someone? Are you being a Paul? Are you being a Peter? Who is your Timothy? Who's your protege? Who are you pouring into? If you don't have anybody, I think the overwhelming text says, find somebody today. Find somebody today that you can pour into. Well, that's what I got out of Joshua chapter 13. And tomorrow, we're going to be in Joshua chapter 16 through Joshua 20. And we're kind of making a good progress. I know I'm alone this series. We got a good guest coming in 1st and 2nd Samuel, so I'm excited about that. But anyways, for the rest of Joshua, it'll just be me and Ben. Anyways, until tomorrow, peace.